Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be checking out the new Morphtronics in gameplay. So the deck is actually pretty busted. We got pretty decent consistency, but what makes the deck so good specifically is Droplets is excellent in the deck because dumping the cards doesn't really hurt too much. The best cards in the deck really come down to the cell phone, and then there's also the other cell phone. I know, they're so close with the names on some of these cards, but we have cell phone, telephone, over here, and both of these are really good. So you're gonna be able to not only heal for life points when it's in attack position, but you can special summon a Morphtronic from your graveyard whose level is equal to or lower than the result of whatever you're rolling. So this card is kind of similar to Cellphone. This is like one of the newest cards, but the deck becomes even more broken, and we didn't even show you guys with Machine Dupe what the deck can do. Obviously, if you've ever played Morphtronics before or played against them, when they open up with specifically getting the machine duplication, this is just so broken. I mean, obviously they drew into it, but you can draw into a lot of cards with Librarian. However, they didn't even need to open up with it. Like, because the effects is not like you can only use the effect of it once per turn. And that's how Cellphone was back in the day too. Like, you could just keep on, you just go for that one, and then you keep on going, and you go for Cellphone. Cellphone gets its effect. Machine Dupe in the deck is just GG. Like, again, if you open up with it, you're winning. If you don't open up with it, you have a pretty good chance to draw into it because you can synchro up quite a few times. I mean, you're basically going through half your deck anyways, right? And you have triple Machine Dupe, so not even opening up with it, what can you do with the deck? Because actually, when I first saw this deck, I'm like, wait, they didn't make a lot of these card effects like once per turn, right? And that's what really makes Morphtronics so good. So we have a Robin, we've got, of course, Baron de Fleur, we've got the Savage Dragon, we got multiple negates. So that's 4 negates, 5, 6, like, it can negate enough. Now, obviously, Super Poly, you can't really negate that, but we have additional plays to make it so your opponent really can't Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, at the end of the day, is the illusion of chaos going to be going off? Probably not, you know, so he's stuck with this board over here, but it's not really going to matter. It's been GG basically turn 1. So the deck is pretty OP turn 1. Obviously, there's a lot of different Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks that, like, turn 1, they're pretty OP, but the reason why I think that this deck has, like, a little bit of an edge, right, is Machine Dupe itself is already a win condition if you open up with, you know, either of the Cellphone or Telephone cards, because they will cycle through multiple cards, which is excellent, obviously, for the archetype. Now, he draws Skill Drain, but it's a little bit too late for that to actually be able to be used, so he's going to go ahead and stop Splatter, but it doesn't really matter. He's got the Skill Drain again, because he's still got double counters on this. Not going to be popping off at all, but I'm going to show you guys a couple different duels just so you guys get some variety. You can kind of understand the bread and butter of the plays of the deck. Obviously, this has to stop that, and then it's going to be GG from here. I mean, well, he's got Illusion, but it doesn't really matter. Now, I wouldn't say this deck is like oriented around like OTK heavy. I mean, it can definitely do it, but this is an interesting effect over you. Tribute effect monster special summon this card, then you get to special summon a token with the same type of attribute. You can only use this effect. So, like, this card is a really interesting card as a tech card in the deck. Now, I want to go ahead and give you guys a couple different plays over here. We'll start off with like this one over here. There is a duel where they happen to be going second, because I do want to show you guys, like, you know, what happens when the deck goes second. Obviously, you know, turn 1, a lot of times it's going to be, you can use Gadget Gamer. This is an excellent newer card. Lets you just add a level 1 machine. So again, this is why the deck has insane consistency. You can search out for whatever card you want. Usually it's Cellphone. There's also Telephone is a great card, but like that plus Machine Dupe is like a GG. And you might be seeing, whoa, that's Spell Canceller. So yeah, Spell Canceller can be summoned in the deck with Baron. It's been a combo that a lot of people have used before. It's nothing too new, but like obviously it works well with this deck because you have a lot of synergy. You have to dump the extra cards, right? And that's why this deck is so good with Droplets, because you're able to dump the cards that you don't need into the grave. We have Parallax Seed coming out. So the deck does have a lot of options. And obviously with the new ban list, Jet Synchron, making things a lot more viable. And we even have Platinum Gadget being summoned over here. And here is the Telephone. It goes ahead and lands on a 4. So for no reason, you get to heal up. I don't really feel like that's like a huge thing. I don't know if someone's gonna figure out how to make it so like you can RO Mage Plant Engine it as well, because you can heal up, right? So there might be some extra further potential with the skill ceiling of this deck with mixing that up. But this guy YuGiOh, he really knows his deck. So here's the play that you would go for. You can go for Spell Canceller. This one isn't like the most insane wombo combo turn 1, but I do want to. The guy ends up quitting it, but nonetheless, we do also happen to have this card, which is decent because it lets you special summon a level 4 for Gadget, and obviously you can go for more plays with that, adding for future plays. But I want to go ahead and show you guys this one over here. It's one of these that they happen to go second, but nonetheless, the most important thing with this deck is just basically using the Salphon again and again. And Gadget Gamer is just such a great card for like the opener most of the time, and it lets you tribute it to special summon a Morphtronic from your hand. So basically, you get to summon this, and then it goes into whatever Morphtronic that you actually want to go for, which is pretty good. Now, this effect though is a once per turn, so you can't like go for the plays with like Machine Dupe, because it has like each effect of Gadget Gamer. But again, that's what makes the Morphtronic engine so powerful. Now, obviously, this is kind of like self-explanatory, evenly matched, but droplets would basically kind of do the same thing, or Dark Lord no more. But I want to show you guys, like, if the deck doesn't OTK, what's the follow-ups, right? So let's go ahead and check it out. So it's gonna the effect of the Despia card. Busting it out. In main phase 2, we go for, again, this is like the bread and butter. This is kind of teaching you guys how to play the deck. You go and go for Salphon, and then we have the Gadget Hollow over here. This card lets you just dump any of your Morphtronics. So if you happen to need to dump your Morphtronics into the grave for the extra bonus effect of the Telephone, the new one, that's what it would be used for. So we also have Smartphone. It's weird that they're all kind of like, well, they're all gadgets. So there's, like electronic gadgets is what I should say, because they're not like part of the gadget archetype. But obviously it does work well, because you can make, of course, Platinum Gadget, because it does let you go for the special summon. And then we're seeing Telephone being summoned, as well as the Smartphone. Decent card over here. You get to roll a 6-sided die, then you get to excavate that many, and then you get to add one Morphtronic card. So we're having the Converter Unit. So Converter Unit is one of the newer cards as well. You get to target a machine monster, and then you get to apply the effect based on the position. So either you get to special summon a Morphtronic with a different name, then you place the target monster on the top of the deck, or if it's defense, you get to change it to attack position, then special summon a machine monster level 4 or lower from your hand. So it's either special summon, or you're going to be able to go from your deck, either from hand or deck. So at this point though, this is usually GG's anyways. Like again, Appaloosa this had 4 negates, now it's at 3. So at 4, this is potentially like 5 negates. Again, that's going second. And then you can see where the Baron comes in with the spell cancel, so it can be very difficult. Now he got lucky, he had the Fairy Tale Snow to run it over for the 50, but spell cancel is fantastic. Unfortunately, the defense on the spell cancel is a little bit weak. The guy just said, okay, you got it, that's GG, because essentially what's going to happen with this, obviously he's going to go right back into the combo. So you start off with the Salphon, but then later you can go to Telephone, because everything is usually going to be in the graveyard at that point. You're going through basically half of your deck majority of the time, turn 1. But I think the deck is got a lot of potential, and I think, again, turn 1, it's a little bit bust. Now, I'm going to show you guys, it might not explode every single turn, and that's what I want to give you guys. He just set the called by the grave over here, because we just didn't happen to happen. And I want to give you guys realistic footage of decks. Sometimes you don't always open up with the most OP thing, but now we've got the droplet to go ahead and stop that. Set up for the graveyard. We got the Eldritch Golden Lord out, and goes into the Converter Unit. Now he's summoned Remoten, and now we're going to be able to basically combo off of just these cards. Well, granted, that's hopefully if your opponent doesn't happen to have any back row. Now we'll go into the Salphon, go right into Linkariba, so we can dump it into the graveyard, and then go right into Halki Firebrax. This card is no surprise. It's a very good card. So what would the deck actually lose to at the end of the day? It would lose to kind of going second and not opening it up with enough stuff to maybe deal with like back row. Obviously, you can play Duster. I mean, you can play droplets to get rid of. Well, droplets doesn't really deal with everything in all scenarios, but generally if you happen to go second, negating like 2 or 3 cards can be great. So this is in the situation where he actually did take an L. I would say maybe back row is a problem with this deck, because obviously evenly match is a great card, but I'll actually show you guys multiple different deck profiles, because he was actually one of the better Morphtronic players that I was like checking out. But big shout out to YuGiOh over here. But he was actually playing a few different variants. So he would swap out the spell canceller for Jinzo, specifically against certain matchups. Obviously that would be a matchup where you'd want to have Jinzo, because like certain decks like Eldritch, they got so much back row. So I honestly want to say that that's probably the problematic card. Obviously side decking evenly could be great as well for those matchups where like True Draco, things that would just have too many things on the board. But the new Morphtronics are actually pretty broken turn 1, specifically because I feel like machine duplication should probably be banned. It's only like when people activate it, it's either like so broken that like it's GG. In Cyber Dragon, it can be pretty insane as well. But specifically, this card, I think it probably will be on the next chopping block for the ban list. I didn't get to talk about the Kraton here, so I'm going to briefly mention Kraton. So this card, you can discard it during your main phase, and then you get to normal summon a earth or water monster in addition to your normal summon set. So if your opponent happens to have like a hand trap that disrupts you, you can continue to play it by going for this. But if an earth, if you control an earth monster and a water monster, while this card's in your graveyard, you can spell summon it but banish it when it leaves the field. As far as like that effect going off, I'm pretty sure it's just used for the other one, but there is technically a Halki Fibrax that could be a potential card. It's usually mostly just earth though, for the plays, but yeah, it's just additional like extender on a combo if something gets Veilered or whatever the case may be. Really think it's a cool deck though, guys. Let me know what you think of the new Morphtronics down below in the comment section below. But yeah, Machine Dupe has been broken. It's always been broken for the most part of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's either like broken or useless, you know, that's how I feel about it. I mean, remember, if you guys remember Troop Dupe Scoop, I mean, this card is just insane. But anyways, thanks for tuning, guys. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit subscribe, turn the bell if you want to see more new Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks in the future. Take care. I'll catch you in the next one. Also, Discord down below for the one-click download. Peace.